Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're putting on our expert researcher hats and literally unsealing a highly dangerous, forbidden historical archive. We're diving deep into the dark fantasy lore of the War of Crowns cycle, specifically looking at a fascinating and honestly terrifying document known as the Treaty of Ash. The story we're unpacking here is pretty chilling. We're going to discover how humanity wasn't conquered by, hellfire invading armies or some apocalyptic destruction. No, they were bought, slowly, quietly, and entirely through the seduction of daily convenience. All right, let's just jump right in. Think of this explainer as our official docket for today. We'll be looking at the silent demonic shift, the market of convenience, examining the treaty clauses and their loopholes, exploring the evolution of sacrifice, and finally, wrapping up with a look at the permanent cycle of debt. Okay, moving into Section 1, the silent demonic shift, a threat unseen. So our story begins not with the clash of swords or the breaking of massive city walls, but with this haunting, eerie silence. To really grasp the start of this crisis, just try to imagine the absolute sheer terror of the high religious humans when this happened in a great city of Lareth. Every single bell across all the monasteries, temples, and shrines rang simultaneously at the exact same hour. And here is the truly terrifying detail straight from the archive. The bell ropes were hanging completely still, like sleeping snakes. Not a single human hand was touching them. No single faith could claim the noise, and absolutely no priest could command it to stop. This wasn't some divine miracle, you guys. It was a warning. A massive, unseen pressure had begun to move right underneath human life. This insane supernatural event forced the religious elders, who were usually fierce rivals in doctrine, by the way, to actually gather beneath the old Hall of Lamps to form what they called the Council of Mortal Light. And what they realized was horrifying. Low-ranked demons had already infiltrated everyday life. They hadn't kicked the door down in some dramatic siege. Instead, they had just quietly slipped in through desperation, gratitude, and daily habit. When some of the more zealous elders started demanding a holy war or a massive cleansing, Archkeeper Havel of the Stone Choir completely silenced the room with this chilling realization. He said, "We cannot burn a shadow that is already inside the house." Basically, they had to negotiate with the shadows because the shadows were already living right there with them. Next up is Section 2, the market of convenience, salvation as practicality. This totally reframes everything we thought we knew about dark fantasy bargains. The demonic infiltration didn't happen through grand theatrical demands for worship. It actually happened through simple, undeniable utility. Just look at the lesser demon Caim, for example. He offered to have birds warn villagers right before raiders attacked. Or Crocell, who provided water during brutal droughts. Decarabia gave out herbal knowledge to heal sick kids. To a common, everyday villager, bypassing traditional religion for this kind of help didn't feel sinful at all. It just felt incredibly practical. I mean, a village that survives because of a demon's warning still survives, right? But the hidden legal catch here is absolutely devastating. Look at the soul debts. Caim claims the right to the names that mothers whisper to their unborn babies. Raum demands deeply intimate human memories. You see, they didn't ask to be loved. They just asked to be needed. Step by step, we can track exactly how a simple request, like say crop protection or a healed child, slowly unraveled humanity's long-term agency. Step 1 starts with basic convenience or fear. Then step 2 is where that daily reliance forms. Why wait for, godly patience when a shadow answers you immediately? Step 3 takes that dynamic and formalizes it into a literal soul debt. And finally, step 4 is the ultimate human cost, the loss of self. People were willingly trading away personal memories, names, and inner truths just for immediate physical relief. It really is a masterclass in creating political dependence. and it was executed flawlessly by the low ranks of the Goetia. All right, let's get into Section 3, examining the treaty clauses, the docket. Realizing that the general populace was quietly being harvested, the religious elders did the unthinkable. They summoned the demonic envoys to the table of ash to actually negotiate. To face them, the human side brought in a man named Ilian Mar. Now, Ilian doesn't carry a religious robe or a holy weapon. Instead, he carries frightening debts from higher demonic crowns. From Prince Vassago, he has the hidden sight. From Paimon, he has the tongue of ordered meaning. He's essentially marked by high-tier demons, which gives him the unique ability to see right through the lesser demons' lies. And the lesser envoys he was facing? Well, they didn't arrive as giant, scary monsters with horns and fire. They arrived as incredibly subtle signs. A crow tapping at the window, a steaming cup of water, artificial birdsong. They totally understood that overt terror wastes energy, but quiet persuasion, that lasts so much longer. Right off the bat, at the negotiation table, Archkeeper Havel attempted to lay down some strict boundaries to basically cage the shadow. He proposed these laws of the elders: no blood, no worship, no taking of names from children, no bargains with the grieving until 40 days had passed. I mean, looking at it, it seems pretty comprehensive, right? It looks like a really solid legal framework to protect humanity. But as we're about to see, when you try to write laws with righteous certainty against entities that are older than time itself, you're really just giving them a new edge to sharpen. That brings us to Section 4, loopholes and soul debts, the trap of language. Here's the thing. The lesser demons had survived under the high crowns of the Goetia for literal eons by learning to live inside incredibly narrow spaces. They were experts at turning righteous laws into absolute legal nightmares. For example, when the humans wrote emergency aid into the treaty to limit demonic intervention, the demons read that as, okay, any fear a human simply declares to be urgent completely justifies our presence. Humans required agreements to be witnessed by 3 adults for transparency. The demons happily agreed to that, fully knowing those 3 witnesses would just be humans who were already quietly dependent on demonic help themselves. So these supposed protective clauses, they were actually just masking devastating long-term soul debts. It was Ilian Mar tapping into Paimon's borrowed tongue of ordered meaning who actually heard the horrifying second text hiding beneath every beautiful, flowery phrase of the draft agreement. He abruptly stopped the elders as they were reading through this seemingly harmless document and delivered this unforgettable, spine-chilling line. This clause is a door, this one is a well, this one is a chain, this one smiles because it has teeth. Seriously, the language itself was armed and ready to trap them. And looking directly at the very pages of this forbidden archive, it becomes undeniably clear that the high-ranked, unseen Goethe demons, we're talking kings like Baal, Belial, and Asmodee, were silently watching this entire negotiation play out. They were using the lesser demons on the ground to study human weakness in real time. The human religious leaders realized way too late that they weren't just negotiating with a few minor spirits. They were negotiating at the base of a massive, impossibly dark hierarchy. Every single word said at the table of ash was climbing steadily upward. Moving on to Section 5, the evolution of sacrifice, the precedent. Now, the most devastating revelation of this whole summit didn't actually come from the demons. It came from the human side of the table. Elder Semet, a highly respected holy man who literally kept the genealogies of fallen cities, suddenly confessed something awful. He revealed that to find the murder of 3 children in a border village after traditional human law had totally failed and witnesses had lied to him, he actually accepted a whisper from the demon Raum. And the crazy thing is, it worked. He found the buried knife and saved the village. But when the council asked him what he paid for this service, he confessed,
a memory of my mother's voice. That admission completely shattered the council. It showed the true agonizing human cost of choosing convenience over traditional guidance, even when it was for a righteous cause. What this archive documents is a truly terrifying paradigm shift. We call it the evolution of sacrifice. You see, sacrifice no longer required knives, blood, or stone graves. The demons had learned a crucial lesson. Humans reject bloody horror pretty easily, but they are incredibly willing to trade away their inner selves. A memory can be surrendered without leaving a physical body behind. A voice can vanish without a grave. But as the text astutely notes, a man without his mother's voice inside him is just not the same man anymore. These demonic bargains were actively eroding humanity from the inside out, harvesting the exact things that make a person whole.
And finally, Section 6, a permanent cycle of debt, the verdict.
As the night dragged on and these intense negotiations began to close, it became horribly, painfully apparent that this entire treaty was just a giant trap. But then, guided by the hidden Prince Vassago, who famously taught through absence, Ilian noticed the center of the stone table growing cold. He looked down and found this profound question scratched directly into the ancient stone. What must not be traded? Ilian read it aloud, and the weight of that question wounded every clever answer in the room. It basically forced the elders to stop arguing about what demons were forbidden to take and instead start defining the untradeable soul of humanity. Things like the right to heal without owing a hidden throne are the silence needed for prayer. Vassago hadn't defeated the lesser demons for them. He had simply made the humans much harder to purchase.
Ultimately, the document was signed, not as a pact, a word Ilian absolutely refused to use because it implied some sort of mutual benefit, but as the lesser treaty. Its terms were far from perfect. It demanded that every single act of unseen assistance be named as a danger, not a miracle. Ilian signed it last, but he didn't sign as a sorcerer or a priest. He signed merely as a witness to a document that officially formalized humanity's dependence. The demons didn't get an open license to do whatever they wanted, sure, but they did gain legal recognition that humans would readily speak with them when put under pressure. Which brings us to the ultimate chilling verdict of this archival legal brief. When someone asked Ilian if the treaty would actually hold, he admitted it would only last exactly as long as people remembered why it was written in the first place. If they forgot, the demons wouldn't even need to conquer them. They would just become convenient again. The treaty didn't serve humanity. It just created a permanent cycle of debt. As the archive itself concludes, the first successful negotiation does not end a war. It teaches every side how to negotiate better next time. Which leaves us with a pretty haunting question to chew on. In our own lives, when we trade our privacy or our deep principles for daily convenience, whose treaty are we really signing?